Not all those who wander are lost. J.R. Tolkien. Welcome to Aegis Travel Adventures. We are Ken
and Gisele. We have been to over 100 countries and are still looking to see what is around the next corner. We love wine,
travel, and adventure. Listen to our podcast where we share the fun of the magical places, people, and cultures that have touched our lives.
Aegis,
Isguazu
travel,
Falls,
adventures.
Welcome to Aegis Travel Adventures. We wanted to give you a recap of our adventures at Iguazu Falls in both Argentina and in Brazil. There's two sides to the falls, and the river divides them. Interestingly enough, from our perspective anyway, we came in thinking that one side would be our preference, and having explored 4 facets of the falls, which included helicopter, boat, and then walking on Argentinian side and on the Brazil side, we felt that the Brazil side was more beautiful and impactful on us overall. However, there are things on the Argentinian side that should not be missed, and particularly the Devil's Throat. And it's a 1 kilometer walkway out over rapids and a very wide river that fuels the falls. And when you get to the end, it's pretty magnificent, and you will get wet. So this all came about. We flew from Buenos Aires, Argentina, to the Iguazu airport on the Argentinian side. There's actually 3 airports here, which we've learned since then, and there's 3 countries that butt up against each other: Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil, and they're all packed together in this one corner, interestingly enough. And today, at the end of the day, we went to an overlook, and we were able to see the bridge that connects Brazil and Argentina. And then in the background, Brazil and Paraguay, and then on the other side you could see Argentina. So it was very interesting to see all these countries so close. However, there is a problem, and that's the border crossing. Both days that we went to the border, fortunately, our guide had what we call the Disney Fast Pass, and they were able to skip the line. This line was cars between 2 and 3 hours waiting to get across the border from Argentina into Brazil. And according to our guide, this is completely normal, happens all the time. If you get there early in the morning, it's lesser. During the middle of the day, it's greater. Later at night, it's lesser. It's still backed up.
Except on Friday and Saturday nights, people go for hours if you are on the Brazilian side to go party in Argentina, because evidently Argentina's got cheaper drinks. So Rodrigo said this is a place everybody wants to go on the weekend, and the line, people are willing to stand in line literally for a couple hours to get a cheaper drink.
stand in the car line. And it's not just drinks, it's a party place. The exchange rate is extremely favorable in Argentina. Interestingly enough, you see Paraguay, and it's easy access from Brazil. And the whole city in Paraguay, just across the river, is all a duty-free city. And so people from both countries go over there to buy goods duty-free and save money, and so that can create its own congestion. We did go into Paraguay, but not over the bridge into the city. We went into Paraguay when we went to the dam, which creates the power. 50% goes to Paraguay, 50% to Brazil. But Paraguay sells a good portion of theirs back to Brazil. So what we've learned, I think, is interesting. We would highly suggest that you get a private guide, and we did guides by local,
Tours by local.
tours by local. Thank you. And we hired Rodrigo.
He was amazing.
He was amazing, and his English skills were excellent. He was a former college professor, and he lived in Denver for a year. So he knew a fair amount about us and our culture, and he was able to converse with us extremely easily.
So what we did for the last 2 days, we first day, well actually the second day, because we got here the first day, we just chilled out at the lovely hotel, which we talked about earlier. So the second day, Rodrigo picked us up, and we went to the Brazilian Falls, and we went. First of all, we went to the dam, and it's huge, and it's very fascinating. And honestly, I'm not a this kind of thing does not interest me as a rule.
She didn't think she would give a damn about it.
Yeah, right.
She
But
did.
yeah, I did. But it was actually, the tour was Dams Light, if you will, and it wasn't too technical, but it was pretty fascinating, pretty interesting. So we did that for probably about an hour or so, and then we went to the falls. But we also did something which we have not ever done before. We took a helicopter ride. And so that was really kind of scary at first, because we're standing in line. And FYI, I have I have an Apple Watch, and so it was telling me my heart rate was going up quite a bit. I'm like, I'm not having a heart attack, but it kept asking me, was I okay? This is before we got on the helicopter. So we did the helicopter ride. There was 4 of us in the ride, in the helicopter, besides the pilot, and it was pretty darn amazing to see the falls from that distance, and see the magnitude of the water, just rushing by. And it was only a 10-minute ride, but I would say well worth the money. And we had such a nice time. The pilot, didn't say anything, so it was all basically just the experiencing of the scenery and the water and the
But he approached the
museum.
falls and went around through them. They're kind of a horseshoe shape, and he went through them. Then he turned the helicopter around, went around the other way, so the people on the other side could see the same thing. So it was pretty interesting. And Iguazu Falls has 170 cataracts, and the surface area that it covers with all those cataracts is quite amazing. I mean, it goes on for miles. So the view from the helicopter was, I think, instructive, interesting, entertaining, all the above. And while it cost probably $100 a person, 10 minutes, I'd like to be working for that rate per hour, but it was well worth it. So.
And then we, after that, we went, continued on to the falls, and we did a boat ride. And so the boat ride consists of, you go and they tell you it's not, if you're going to get wet, you are going to get wet, and not just wet, you're going to get drenched.
And
so
we took our bathing suits.
And I wore my rain jacket because I don't like cold water. So we did it, and they drive you along, or they motor you along on the boat, and it's pretty tame. And then all of a sudden, he does a lot of twirls and stuff to make the ride more fun, if you call that fun. And so then they go into the waterfalls, and so it's like the biggest shower you can imagine, just drenching water on you. And he goes up, and he goes down, and he goes backwards, he goes forwards. So you are literally just getting drenched by the falls quite a bit.
And I took my iPhone, which is only water resistant, and I took lots of pictures, videos, and it came out of it unscathed. So
we were thrilled. But side note, as we are done with the ride, and we're thinking, well, this is wonderful, and then all of a sudden we go into the middle of the river, and we just stop, and we're just sitting there chilling. I'm like, well, what's going on? Maybe they're going to go back into the falls or something. So about after 10 minutes, everybody just kind of looking at each other and staring at each other. Another boat pulls up, and evidently our boat had a problem, and they didn't tell us. So And so we did that. We went transferred to another boat.
Tied them together, and then we
No
just
problems.
transferred everything
Yeah.
to another boat.
And then we went back into the falls and did the water experience one more time.
That was a bonus for having to
Yeah,
sit
like,
for 10
yay,
minutes.
yeah.
Where you get a second run at the
Yeah,
falls.
and I was like,
drenched.
you know what, we're good just to go back, but it was still fun. I kept thinking, if this 12-year-old little girl behind me can do this, I'm just fine. So we did that, and it was great fun, and we survived, and we got back to the main area, changed clothes, blah blah blah. But the coolest thing we did yesterday, which I think it was, beside those two things, which were pretty darn amazing, is our guide, because he's a guide, we were able to be at the park at sunset.
On the Brazil side.
And we were allowed to be there when nobody else was there. So the beginnings of the walk, there's a lot of people, and so we walked down, and then we just walk from the entrance of the Brazilian side to where the parking lot was. So we walked probably about an hour, and the pictures that we got, but more importantly, it was so amazing, and there was nobody else but us. And it was just a feeling to get, I really felt like you could understand about the waterfalls, and you could see it, and you could just appreciate
and hear it.
and you could appreciate the majestic of it all. And near the end, there's a walkway that you can walk out and
Into the river.
So we walked out, just Ken and I, nobody else, and it was twilight, and we were just getting drenched because the water's just coming at you. But it was really a magical moment, and we're fortunate to have those kinds of moments. And it was wonderful. And our road got us back, and then we came back to the hotel, and we were pretty much exhausted. So it was a full day.
But our guide, being a local, been here all his life, he recommended what he said he thought was the best restaurant in town, and he made a reservation for us. So we showed up at 9:30. Taxis on the Brazilian side are quite reasonable, and it was about a 10-12 minute ride. It was $4 roughly.
And he came back for us, which we were thrilled.
And he came back for us. So
we had a great Italian dinner, great wine. Came back to the room. We're exhausted, and then we started today all over again.
And so this time we went over to the Argentinian side of the falls, and they talk about, the cataracts, most of them are on the Argentinian side. And that's true, that, but you're at the top of them looking down. And so it's a whole different experience than being on the Brazil side, and you look out and you see this huge, it's miles of waterfalls, just cataract after cataract, and some of them run together. And but the interesting part I thought today was that we got to go out on this kilometer walk to what they call the Devil's Throat, and they have a little train in the national park that takes you there, because it's quite a ways to get to the beginning of the trail, and then you have to walk another kilometer basically on metal boardwalks and out to the end, and then you are in where the majority of the water's going over in a horseshoe shape, and it's with a little bit of wind, it shifts, you get wet, the cameras get wet, people back up, and then as soon as it dies down, they all rush back to the front and they start taking pictures and hugging and and kissing and with their photographers, and it's really amazing sight. And then the other thing is, even though most of the falls are going down, so you're at the top, there's V falls and so on, but you also see the landscape of the rivers. And rivers, this is like a plain of rivers, and there's vegetation and islands in the middle of them, and it goes on for a mile or two until they get to the edge of the falls. So it's a different experience, but it's well worth it. So our recommendation is to do both sides of the falls. We stayed on the Brazilian side. We stayed at the Hilton Doubletree. Nice hotel, great pool, nice rooms, 4 months old. Everything was great. But you can spend many times more money, and you can stay in either park. There's old wooden hotels right at the edge of the falls, They're beautiful, but the cost of them are astronomical. We felt like we saved a lot of money by doing it this way, and then we were in town, so we had the experience of doing things close by, like the dinner last night.
One thing we did say is that if you were in the Brazilian side and you want to go to the Argentine side for dinner, it can be very problematic. So if you decide you want to come, and I think the Argentine side has probably better restaurants, except the Italian restaurant we had last night was so good. But still, the Argentine side, from what we're gathering, has more of a nightlife, more things to do. That might be a better alternative. We weren't really, that wasn't important to us. So we felt like we were kind of getting the best of both worlds. Today, or at the end of our tour, our guide did take us, Rodrigo did take us to this, again, Brazilian steakhouse.
Argentine steakhouse.
Argentine steakhouse.
With some of the best steak in the
Yeah,
world.
it was delicious. Again, very good bottle of wine, and we enjoyed ourselves. So we feel like we got the best of both worlds. Yeah. But so we've had this amazing time, and we have enjoyed it tremendously. We leave tomorrow to take a flight back to Buenos Aires to get on the Viking cruise, and once we get on that, we'll keep giving you guys the updates. Again, thank you for following us. We've had a great time, and if you have any questions or anything you else want to do, feel free to reach out to us.
Have a good day. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.